usually it counts down. Okay. Hello, April. Welcome to your small business podcast. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me, Janice. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here too. So excited because we're going to talk about something that I am so bad at, which is painting.
Oh, okay.
And I'm always interested about learning in I'm in photography. I said painting,
That's all right.
but about taking because I actually at one point had thought about doing that, but I'm just so bad at it. So I'm actually, along with my listeners, going to learn a few things from you about photography today.
Great.
Yes. So you've been a photographer for 15 years. That is a long time.
Yeah, actually, I consider that I started photography as a kid. I always loved drawing and painting, and my parents always, growing up, it was a while ago where you had like three TV stations. And so if there
Mm,
was, and your parents, like my parents were very limiting on what we watched. So it's like you'd go to your room, you'd sketch, you'd paint. But the camera was given to me as a gift, I think, in grade school. And I just really enjoyed, with taking it on the weekends. I'd go see my grandma in the summer and, just snapping some pictures. And it just kind of was a passion. And the passion kind of came back because I went to work, had to, I did do fashion design for a while. I
mm,
had a degree in graphic design. So I did stay with the arts, but eventually I was in retail management and working, just long hours. And I didn't have a real pro camera, but my husband, I don't know, he saw me painting one day and he decided to gift me with the camera again. It kind of came back to me, as how I say it. And once I had the camera again, I could combine my two passions, which was traveling and photography.
mm,
And traveling can just be going down the block. It can be, going to the garden on the weekend or going with friends. And for me, it just rediscovered that passion. And I consider the camera just a tool.
mm.
Just like you mentioned painting, there's some amazing artists that paint or that draw. And I think everyone has an artistic soul inside of them, and it may come through the camera. It may come through, maybe they love cooking and creating, great dishes and great foods. Maybe they're a carpenter, but everybody has that creative nature inside of them. It's just how it
Mm-hmm.
chooses to come back out. And so really, I started as a kid, and then thankfully it came full circle. Now I'm back, like I said, doing travel and photography. So
That is so great.
yeah.
I've realized a lot of people when they go back to what they loved as a kid, that ends up being what they end up making a career out of
Right. Oh, I
when they go
totally
back to that.
agree. Yeah. And I think it's what you're passionate about that
Hmm.
you're going to be the most satisfied. I mean, there are people out there, I see the ads on Facebook, women that are making six figures and all of that. And that's wonderful and that's great if that's your passion. But for
Hmm.
me, it's like, I've learned I'm just comfortable with, paying my bills. And if I can pay my bills and support myself doing what I love, that's the greater gift to myself and to the people around me because I'm a much nicer person. If you could, you don't want to be going, and we do. We all have to take those jobs to pay our bills and feed our
Yeah.
families. But at some point, you got to learn to feed your soul. Otherwise,
Mm.
life just isn't, it's just not worth it. You get frustrated, you get angry. We got to find
Yeah.
ways to support people doing what they love and encourage it, whatever that is.
You're exactly right. Because, like you said, that 9 to 5 could just be draining you
Right.
and creating you to be a monster,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
then when you find something that you love and that you're passionate about, like you with your photography, it's like it's a shoe in.
Right.
Yeah, regardless of how much you actually make. But long as, like you said, you're paying, you're doing whatever you want to do. As long as that's how you know you're happy. Because it
Right.
doesn't matter about the money.
No. Mm-mm.
Exactly. That's awesome. So, what are some challenges that you have dealt with building your photography business? And how did you conquer that?
The biggest challenge, and I think it's a challenge for all small business owners, is getting clients. It's actually
Hmm.
obtaining the clients. I mean, for a lot of us, there are small businesses. Once you have that client, you're probably going to keep that client. I would say 90%, 95. I mean, I've only had a few people maybe that we haven't clicked, or maybe we haven't communicated correctly, that haven't been lifetime customers, whether it's a portrait photography job or whether it's, taking my photography tours. Those people keep calling me. They keep asking, hey, where are you going next? What's your next destination? I want to go on a trip with you. But the trick is getting those people, finding your audience, finding your
Hmm.
tribe. And I think that message is, even as wonderful as the internet is, it offers so many more places. It also is challenging because it's like, where do you put your time? Do you put your time in all the different social media places? Do you put
Right.
your time locally? So, especially when you have a limited budget, and I'll admit I have a limited budget. So, that's
Hmm.
been the challenge. So, I've just learned to get creative. Again, how can I do this on a small budget? Really narrow down who is my client. And for me, a lot of my clients are women. There's a lot of photography tours out there, but a lot of them kind of cater towards men. And I found that men and women, we're built different. For the most part, we're just kind of
Hmm.
wired differently. And I took some photography workshops and tours with men, and it gets kind of I don't know what the right word is, but it kind of it stifles my creativity because they're throwing out all the facts and figures. Like, you want to set your camera to this f-stop and that speed setting. And for beginners, women that are passionate or someone that's starting out, they just want to get a great picture. They want to
Yeah.
You want to fuel that love. It's like the kid with, when we're got our crayons and our paintbrushes as a little kid. If someone tells you like, wow, that's an amazing, you know, that's beautiful, that drawing you did, you're going to keep at it. It's that
Hmm.
positive reinforcement. But if someone just tells you, no, you didn't color within the lines, this is, you're going to be, it stifles that creativity and it cuts it down. So for me, most of my clients are women. Most of my clients tend to be a little older, someone that
Hmm.
maybe is rediscovering that passion of photography, and they want someone to do the planning. They want someone to help them get to the right places at the right time for a landscape photo or something. So I started some meetup groups. I've contacted local businesses in my area and find where I can hang my photos for free,
Hmm.
or, pair yourself even with nonprofits. That's a great way.
Oh,
Think of
yeah.
some nonprofit groups that you could maybe partner with, that you kind of match or that you have an interest in, because sometimes you'll find people through avenues you didn't expect, whether it's a women's group or, an art association is a great place. If you're doing like people photography or families, maybe you can be part of a school group and you can
Hmm.
offer to do some of the local events. And there's a lot of community events, and you could have a booth and maybe do some free kids photos, or, even some headshots every now and then, and get
Yeah.
yourself out there. So there's a lot of great ways to just kind of grassroots it, as I say, and,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know, build your business. And that's kind of what I've had to do. I mean, it started out small and I was still working some part-time jobs to offset, as we were talking about earlier, pay your
Hmm.
bills. But
Yeah.
again, have something that you look forward to, and that you're passionate about.
I really think that's people's biggest thing is the whole finding their niche. Well, not finding their niche, but finding that audience. Because
Right.
once you find your audience, your target market, then you're good.
Right.
Um, I actually was having this conversation earlier today with my husband. I was saying, like, people, you can't sell to everybody
No.
because your product usually is not for everybody. But people seem
Right.
to think that when they first get started. And then they realize, like, okay, I've got to narrow this down.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And let's be honest, it's like there's so many of us out there. I mean, the world is so populated, whether it's makeup or, products you make, or food that you create, or for me, like photography. I mean, there's other photo tours people can take. There's other family photographers that people can use. So it really comes down to, again, just realizing that you're not going to sell to everybody. You may not, but how can you sell to your client, who matches with you, and realize that there is someone out there, are customers for you. It's
Oh
just,
yeah.
you have to persist, and you have to sometimes keep
Hmm.
getting creative and pair up with other people. I found that that's been really a good way, whether it's someone else, with like landscape photography, like I mentioned,
Oh
some
yeah.
community events that tie in. There was a nonprofit book group I worked with for a while, just anything that kind of aligned enough where it was like, I help them and they help me. And it's just, it kind of feeds on itself.
Definitely. I don't think I even made a question about your photography tours, but I really, what exactly is that? So,
Yeah, the photography tours is, well, my big one is New England. So, New England is a great destination in the fall, and people like to go out there to see the fall leaves and, see covered bridges or whatever. It's a specific time of year that people like to go there. So, with the
hmm
photography tours, I'm taking photographers out there that want to get those postcard images. A lot of my clients sell their photos. Maybe they have gallery connections and they want to sell their photos in a gallery, or maybe they just want to see the fall leaves and go to the best places to see them, whether it's the best covered bridge. And, planning a trip like that sometimes is daunting because there's so many places to go. And if they're a
hmm
busy executive, maybe they don't have time to do all of that. So that's kind of where I come in. I kind of fill that niche and take people to New England. Charleston in the springtime is gorgeous. I love the
Wow.
South in springtime. There's just a lot of places in the United States that are amazing. You don't have to go to Europe. You don't have to go to Japan. We have so many gem little places here.
hmm
Alaska, I mean, incredible. So that's where I kind of started. I was working full time and I would take my vacation to go to these places, whether it was New England in the fall, or I'd ask my boss, "Hey, I'm taking a week and going to the South in the springtime." And then pretty soon other photographers are like, "Oh, I want to go. I want to go. You got that, amazing picture there last year." So that's kind of where it started. And I
Wow.
just kind of built it that way. So
So you take them with that y'all all go together. So are you teaching them how to get the best pictures
it's a
while they're out there?
combination. Yeah, it's a combination. And I've taken women that, like I said, the cell phones have gotten amazing pictures.
Yeah,
I
they
have
do.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. You don't need a huge, big, expensive professional camera. You can take award-winning photos with your cell phone now. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, exactly. And most of it is, honestly, it's being at the right place at the right time. If you're there at sunrise, on the coast of Maine with the lighthouse, and a seagull floats
Mm,
by and the sun comes up and you've got that amazing sky, you can get that now with your cell phone. You don't have to. Again, it's not the tool, it's your eye and learning to see those opportunities for pictures, and learning just literally point the camera there and snap the picture.
yeah.
I mean, especially even wildlife photography. I mean, you see some amazing stuff, but if you're not ready and looking, in the right places, you're not going to see the eagle swooping down through the sky and
Right.
grabbing something. So
That's
that's what I
exciting.
do. I kind of know where to go to get some of the best opportunities, and I know what time. Like, we need to go at sunrise. Sunrise in in Maine on this date is approximately this time. We need to get
Wow.
ourselves out there, get set up. So that's a lot of it.
That's great. So what makes a good picture? And what makes a good picture stand out from like an average picture? What is your opinion on that?
I think it needs to be memorable. I mean, we're inundated with photos on a daily basis. We have
Mhm.
Instagram, we have Facebook, but what does it take to make you stop? There's something in that photo, whether it's, the woman in the red coat, walking through a field of poppies. So it's that red that draws you, or it's something completely unexpected. Like you don't expect to see the eagle with its wings spread out. So a lot of it is composition, and a lot of
Mhm.
it is just looking for something completely different. And that's what I find
Wow.
so fun about going with other people. Like if I were to take you, Janice, out photographing, you've got a cell phone. You and I could be standing looking at the lighthouse, but you notice the little small wildflowers off to the side by the rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all see differently, and that's what I love about it. Is I've taken other people out and they point out things I don't, I just don't see it. We all are looking at different things. I mean, either from past experiences that we remember, maybe seeing a painting, something sticks in our head, or
Mhm.
just what we key into, whether, where we're looking. And that's what's so fun about going with other people is you can all be standing, 6 feet apart, and we're all looking supposedly in the same area, but we all come back with like six different pictures of the same thing.
That is cool. Yeah, that sounds like me being distracted. Everyone's looking at the lighthouse, and I'm talking about, look at this ant on my shoe,
Yeah,
and I take a picture of
exactly.
that.
Right, right. I know. And then you get some amazing picture of the ant. Or I had a friend that we were at lunch, and she's I'm staring at the ocean waves, and all of a sudden she's got a bird eating out of her hand, and she takes her cell phone and
Oh,
snaps a
wow.
picture of this sparrow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the detail of that sparrow with your cell phone is incredible.
Yeah,
So
I bet that was a great picture.
yeah, it really was. So a part of it is
Amazing.
just encouraging creativity, and with making a memorable picture, finding that point of interest, and then learning some of the aspects of composition. Like you generally don't want to divide your picture right in half. If you've got the sky and a sea line, use the rule of thirds. There's some general compositional techniques that are easy to
Hmm.
teach that start to stick with you. The more you practice it, all of a sudden it's, you're going to keep getting better and better. It's, practice what you love. Most of us didn't just hop on the bicycle and, roll off down the street, but, the more we
Exactly.
practice it, we get better.
That's great. So, whose photography work that you actually admire? Are there
Oh, yeah.
anyone that you just love?
There are so many incredible photographers. I think Annie Leibovitz, as a female photographer, just
Mhm.
really, she joined Rolling Stone in an era where there were so many male photographers in that era, in that time frame. And for her to follow the Rolling Stones on a world tour and take their
No.
photos, I mean, amazing. Ansel Adams, we all know, with the landscape photography.
Mhm.
When you see his rig that he took out there, this huge box of a camera, it's incredible that he
Wow.
continued to do it. But I made sites like deserts and Yosemite just iconic. And then you go to some of the photographers. I love the story of Vivian Mayer, and some of you may know who she is. She was a nanny for years in Chicago. I think it was in like the 1940s and 50s. And her passion was photography. So while she's taking care of children for other families, she was out taking all these photos, years and years,
Wow.
stashing them away in a storage unit. After she died, this gentleman bought the storage unit full of slides, and that's when the world knew who Vivian was, because all of these street photos, all of these wonderful captures of people just going about their daily life, men sitting on benches having conversations, just the fashions, the everyday, just the street photography. And after
Mhm.
seeing her work, it just was like, oh my gosh. I mean, just her bravery, for carrying the camera around and snapping pictures, because now I think
Yeah.
we're so aware of cameras. I mean, I've gone to France sometimes, and I that's the other problem. You pull up a big camera, and pretty soon the waiter that sees you across the way, he's turning his back. He doesn't want his photo taken. So
Oh,
yeah, I mean, but the fact that she just kept doing her thing that she loved, she wasn't looking to have her photos published. Who knows when she died if she realized if anyone would ever see all of those
right.
photos. And now they've been published in books. They've been toured around. So she's just amazing. And for
Wow.
me, it's a lot of artists too. Like you mentioned painting at the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I studied art in school. So I had to learn about all the painters. And for me, those are some of the images that actually stick in my mind when I'm out photographing, whether it's Georgia O'Keeffe. She did those beautiful paintings that were really close-ups of flowers. I
Mm-hmm.
think of her when I've got my camera. It's like, oh wow, if I zoom in really tight on the inside of this flower, it reminds me of her work.
Mm.
The other one would be Edward Hopper. He did these amazing landscape paintings, and they were kind of odd. He did the famous one that's been redone millions of times, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. You see it in the souvenir shops with Marilyn Monroe sitting at the lunch counter.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but he
Now it's like now it's
yeah,
coming to me.
right,
Yes,
right. But
yes.
his version was just two strangers at a lunch counter on a dark evening. But those images, those paintings are kind of like stuck in my mind. So I think when I'm out photographing, it's like all of a sudden I see something and then it's like, oh, wow, that's a great picture. So
Wow.
inspiration can just come from anywhere. It can be things you see in a magazine, old paintings. But some of those are just some of my heroes, I say.
Wow. Do you often like take your camera phone and take pictures like you said you're sitting there and say, "Oh, this would be a great pic," and just go and just take it? You
Yeah.
do
Oh,
that?
yeah.
I,
And especially when I'm with my husband, because a lot of times you're out and dragging that big camera is kind of I don't know, it's a big camera and it's kind of
hmm
obvious. And so I like the cell phones. I like you that you can kind of get some different things and be more stealth about it. And that's one area that I'm still a little shy on. You see some people and you see them like enjoying a great picnic or something, and you so badly want to like take a picture. But you also don't want to get yelled at like, oh, you crazy woman, what are you doing, taking our
Yeah.
picture, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's a little of that too, but with the cell phone at least you can be a little bit more stealth and save the picture for yourself, or
Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe I guess if you ask them, I wonder if
yeah,
some people would be
some
like,
people are
"Okay,
okay, yeah,
I'll just
exactly,
eat my sandwich and you can take a picture."
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because some people probably would like the limelight for a minute
Yeah,
anyway.
that's
So,
true. And the nice thing about the cell phone too is you can always offer to, email it to them or text
oh
it to
yeah.
them, so they can use it for their website, or, just to have it, like if it's their kids, or, sometimes I've done that too. Like someone's, all dressed up and their little kids are so cute. I'll like, can I take a picture? And I'll send it to you, or oftentimes they'll ask if you'll take a picture too. So
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. So let's talk about some the key marketing activities that has helped you build. I know you said about the well, I guess you really answered all those questions. When I think
thank you.
about it, I'm like, you've already answered this question
That's all right.
because you've done all of the, basically networking and collabing is what's helped you. Because I want to make sure the photographers out there that are listening that's having a hard time getting clients. I know a lot of people, some people are very um they don't like to ask people to help them,
Right, right.
and a good way, especially for photography, is to do collabs.
Oh, it is. I can't stress that enough. And like I said, I don't have kids of my own, and people photography hasn't always been my main interest, but I can just see so many opportunities for everybody's got kids and families.
hmm
And if you've got your own family, it's so easy to try to work with your preschool, or you've got a community event and offer your services. Sometimes just either even if it's a nonprofit, I found the free things really do lead to something down the road, and you have to
hmm
be willing sometimes to not look at everything like, oh, everything has to make me a dollar. You have to kind of look
Right.
at the bigger picture, and it's kind of that give and take, and find things that you it's being authentic. I know we talk a lot of times, people talk about that a lot, but I really do believe that if
hmm
you think through your network of friends or family, maybe you have someone that I've been approached to do weddings. And honestly, weddings wasn't something that I went out looking for. But,
Hmm.
and maybe I'm not always the best person to do the wedding, but what I'll do is get the job and ask other photographers that are new, like, hey, do you mind if there's 3 or 4 photographers at your wedding? I mean, most people are going to say, bring it
Yeah.
on. Yeah, the
Yeah,
more the
sure.
merrier. Exactly, because then they're going to get more photos. So what a great opportunity for, you to build a base and have some material then for your website, or to make I often talk about making postcards or making little cards out of a lot of my friends that are getting started in photography. If they're doing even cell phone pictures, you can make
Hmm.
yourself some note cards and send them out. And so people are aware, they're aware of who you are and realize, like, oh wow, look at this picture you did, I didn't know you were into photography. And that opens a conversation, and then you can take it from there, like, oh yeah, I just started doing this. And so
Wow.
those are just I mean, there's so many ideas out there. I think it depends, like, figure out what you're most passionate about, whether it's and there are people that do a little bit of everything. There's
Hmm.
plenty of opportunities for family photography, wedding photography, event photography, food photography. Everyone now needs a website. So
Yeah.
even if it's headshots, every small business owner, or helping someone take product photos, and it can be a learning experience. And if you're new, don't be afraid to say yes. Take the job, figure out how to do it, but be honest as well. I mean,
Hmm.
if I've been given jobs and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't really know how to do that, I go ahead and say yes, spend some time learning, and tell the person, like, hey, these may not be the greatest. I'm not going to charge you for this, but give me a chance. Let me try to do this for you, or let me ask someone else to do it with me, and I'll, work it out. Just don't say no. Never
Right,
say no.
exactly. As we were talking, I was thinking about, how there's a lot of, since, social media is just,
Oh,
it's
it's
not ever going away. And then when you have platforms like Instagram that is so picture driven,
right.
I've seen a lot of people talk about how they don't know how to take pictures for Instagram. They don't know how to take pictures of their products. Um, they always have that issue. Like they have a shirt, they want to take a picture of the shirt, but they don't know how. And I was just thinking that is a whole market for photographers.
It really is a whole market for photographers. And that's why, again, finding a group on Facebook, or like your small business group, ask
Mhm.
around. You probably have someone that that might be just starting, or even a high school or college student that wants the experience, and give them the project, work with them, or have them show you. And there's tons of YouTube videos. If I want to, I mean,
It
if I want
is.
to learn something for lighting, I mean, to be honest, I'm still learning how to light myself to be on these podcasts. It's like, I got to watch some more videos and place my lights, because I tend to, like I said, I love being outdoors. So for portraits too, I do most of my portrait work outside. I'm not, big
Mm,
on, because learning the studio, that's a whole nother thing. So if you're passionate about something, try to learn as much as you can about it, and put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to learn how. Just say
yeah,
yes, and go from there.
exactly. So you said, as far as, I think we had talked, or maybe it was in your notes with me, about building an email list. I know I've done a few trainings about that in my group, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize, like, that is one
Oh,
of the
it's
key things you have to have for a business. So just tell us about your email list and how you built it, and how you keep in touch with your customers, and how that helps your business.
Oh, it's huge. I can't say enough about an email list. And actually, depending on the age of your customers, if you're still working with customers that aren't as computer literate, say, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my clients are older, like they're in their 60s or in their 70s. Not all of them are super good with the computer. So I have an email list, and I have a snail mail list, an old school, like, here's their mailing address. And the way I've built that is anything I do, whether I started 10 years ago and I do a volunteer event and I pair up with someone, I'll ask, like, hey, do you mind if we give away something to collect email addresses? offer something for free, whether it's a stack of note cards, or it's amazing what little thing will get people to give you their email list.
Mm-hmm.
And just go through your friends, start a list, and maybe you need to divide it. Like, these are people that have families that might have opportunities for birthday parties or engagement photos, and use the list and use it not always to be salesy, but to stay in touch. Just continue. I can't tell you. I started my meetup group. Meetup's a group online. You can find people on Meetup there's business meetup groups, there's quilting meetup groups, there's a meetup group for about anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started my meetup group, I started talking about, oh, I'm leading this trip. And, sometimes people say, oh, yeah, I'd love to go to Alaska sometime. But right now, there's this, there's that, the other. Well, I just kept in touch with them. I sent them a birthday card, or every now and then just a greeting card. Hey, I'm thinking about you. How you doing? What's happening with X, Y, and Z? Maybe 5 years later, I kid you not, that person is taking my trip. And that's just how life is. We all have so much going on. So that email address list, I can't stress enough. And make notes so that you can actually remember
Oh
where you
yeah.
got, where you got the email. That to me has always been a challenge. So I made a spreadsheet of my email list, and like I said,
Yeah.
just made little notes like, oh, that's the woman that has 5 children. So, remember, or that's the lady that just, and Facebook. I mean, most of us are on Facebook. Facebook is
Mm-hmm.
fabulous because it'll kind of send you reminders like, oh, it's that
Yeah,
person's
well,
birthday. Remember to just message them or write something, or because it keeps you in front of mind. Then it's like,
mm-hmm.
oh yeah, that's April. That's Janice. Yeah, Janice does great cupcakes and she has wonderful makeup, or whatever it
Yeah.
is about you. It kind of just keeps your name kind of in there. And eventually, maybe not today, maybe not next year, but
Mm-hmm.
at some point, they will use you or refer you to someone. So I just think emails, and even like I said, my snail mail list, same thing. Just go
Yeah.
through it and periodically. And you don't want to always be salesy, please. None of us want that. Just be friendly, just be honest, be you, whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that way, when you stay in touch with them, and like you said, you are in the front of their mind because they see you, ever so often sending emails. So then
Right.
when they do need a picture, you're the first person they think of.
Right, exactly. Or if
Yeah.
their neighbor or coworker says, "Hey, my daughter's graduating. Do you know of anyone that might get you these graduation pictures?" I've been surprised how many times, someone will say, "Oh, I gave your name to my friend. She's got a daughter. Can you do some pictures?" Oh, sure.
Hmm.
So it pays off. It really, really does. Can't
Yeah, it
stress it
does.
enough.
Yeah, and then the whole thing of for recurring um, clients too, because if they use you once and you keep on emailing them, they'll just keep using you. So that
Yeah.
way, you're gonna use those same people for birthdays, weddings, really their whole life,
Yeah,
all their life
exactly.
celebrations. That's like the
Right.
key.
Right. It is the key. It really is.
Yeah. That's excellent. That's great. So, how can my listeners, get connect with you on the internet or the email? What do you have sites? Of course,
Yeah.
I'll leave all of your links in the show notes, but you just tell us where we can find you.
Sure. My email address is april@aprilart.com. I'm on Instagram at Fall Photo Trips, where I post photos from all the different trips. And my website is fallphototrips.com. So pretty simple.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
simple. Some people have really hard websites to remember, and I be telling my clients sometimes, make it easy to remember. Don't
Yes.
make it hard.
Yeah. No,
you
make it.
know, because our memories are short these days. We can't, I'm going to be honest, I don't even know my daughter's phone numbers. I just thought about it. I have two
Oh,
daughters.
no.
I don't know their phone numbers by heart. So you best believe I'm not going to remember your website.
Right, right. No, that's what I tell people too. Just keep it simple, whether it's nails or cupcakes, just try to make it super simple for us.
Exactly, exactly. Well, it was so nice talking to you. We definitely have to do another show on photography again. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Janice. It was so much fun.
Yes.